Well, look, man, we'll hop right in here. And first of all, I just want to say thanks so much for joining us tonight and having this conversation with us, man. I really appreciate your time, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, indeed. So I think I'll just start by saying this, man. Like, what truth be told, I didn't really know about you until about a year ago, right? A year ago, my wife was like, "Oh my God, you got to follow this guy, FitMenCook," and she's going crazy. Oh, there's recipes, and she's cooking all your stuff at home, and I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty good." And so I started following you, and you do some incredible stuff. But what's interesting, man, is and congratulations on your career and what you've done with yourself, man, your success. But what's interesting is this started only like a few years ago. You posted a smoothie. And then now it's like you're going full on 5-course meals and so on and so forth. Could you tell for the folks who I'm certain who don't know who you are, which would be a surprise, tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do, man.
There's a lot of people out there who don't know who I am. So thank you for the opportunity to kind of share my story. You know, I got started with blogging back in around 2012, but before that, I was like in this place of trying to figure out my own life and trying to figure out my diet. I was at a really low point. I was pretty depressed, struggled with like mental health and wellness to a serious degree. And so I turned to cooking to help myself out. First off, I couldn't afford a personal trainer. Secondly, I just couldn't, you know, I needed to feel better, and I wanted to get off the medication that they had me on for my depression. So I turned to my diet because I realized that if I could get that right, then everything else would fall into place. And that only came because I was working out about 3 hours a day for 1 year. And then I looked at my little before and after picture, and I looked the exact same. So I'm thinking like, yo, the only thing changed was like my iPhone got upgraded. That's the only thing that changed in the photo. Something got to change, right? So it wasn't until I started to eat better and the weight began to fall off me at a much faster rate that I got the aha moment. So I started blogging in 2012, and here was the thing. I wasn't trying to do what I'm doing today. This has been a huge blessing. I was just trying to save my diet. What I started out doing was trying to do like a side hustle, basically. And the hustle was, all right, since you can't afford personal training, what if you crowdsource your diet? What if you tell the internet what you're eating and have the internet tell you, hey, eat more of this and not that. Look for, you know, XYZ stuff. And the reverse happened. I realized there are people out there just like me and you and your wife who are just tired of bland meals. And so I began to get into the kitchen and mix and match and put stuff together to see, you know, what would work, and stuff started to, to fall into place, and people just began to follow me.
A few people.
Yeah. It was, you know, it's been a blessing.
That's what's up, man. Look, I think that what's interesting, part of the conversation I wanted to talk with you about is clearly your story, because I think it resonates with a lot of people who are out there kind of dealing with some of the similar things that you've dealt with. But more importantly, you know, what we've seen now in this pandemic is that African Americans and people of color are more at risk, right?
Yeah.
And we are dying twice as high as white people are. And when we start to dig in, some of the reasons, not all the reasons, but some of the reasons really rely on self-care, right? Yeah. And it boils down to the fact that, like, you know, poor eating, poor exercising, leading to things like diabetes and so on and so forth, high blood pressure. What is it? I mean, can you go a little bit deeper? Because you talked a second ago about your aha moment. Can you go a little deeper into like how that happened in that moment of, damn, I do need to make a change and make a difference in my life?
Yeah, well, one of the big aha moments for me, and I'll get back to what you addressed too with African Americans and the rate and COVID. You know, part of my big aha moment was when they put me on medication for the first time in my life for depression and anxiety. Right. And while I began to feel better, certain parts of me felt better, my mood, other parts of me didn't feel so great.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, I can't do it like I used to. I don't feel, like I feel happier, but I'm also sad because that part's affected. And so I was just, I wanted to feel better overall. So that was one aha moment, that, you know, that the medication that I was taking wasn't making me feel at my best in all areas. And the second aha moment was I was you know, again at that point where I saw my my before and after picture, I looked the exact same, and then a trainer just said, well, what are you eating? And for the first time I was like, oh, well, what am I eating and what am I not eating actually? Because you're right, I haven't even looked at my diet. So when I just really began to shed light on the stuff that I was eating and just did small tweaks there, all of a sudden that stubborn weight that I was really trying to lose, it came right off me. And here's the cool thing about healthy eating and nutrition is that once you see that and you feel better, I mean, you know, like you can lose 5 pounds, and you've met people like this before. They lose 5 pounds and it's like, yo, I can do this, I can do that. And let me tell you what I did. And that's because healthy eating, it makes us feel good. It makes us feel better. And so what can happen is we can you know, speed up that like success, you know, of a weight loss because we're feeling much better. And so once that happened, I was just determined. I was like, what if I started to eat better on a regular basis? And then that's how everything just began just to steamroll.
Was it like a thing that like very quickly you realized like, damn, I feel really good now, that this is a gradual thing? Because I feel like some people think that I'm going to go run a mile every day for the next 5 days, and then next week I better feel 100% better, and then quit because they don't.
Yeah, well, that's what everyone does. So I have this saying that you can never out-train a poor diet. And that's what everybody does whenever they try to lose some weight. Let me go to the gym. Let me put on a little waist tummy tuck thing and wrap it around myself. And, you know, and that stuff can only go for so long, but it's actually what you're putting into your body that is going to have the biggest impact.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say there are many differences in health outcomes in America are produced by access to things like adequate time to prepare your meals, access to those meals. There are people in low income areas where we're seeing a lot of these issues with COVID as well, who just don't have the access, right? So some people will say, great, I'd love to eat healthy, but I don't have a Whole Foods that's down the block from me. I got a bodega in some other random place. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience? Because you went to, not like I was surprised, a lot of people may not know you went to Harvard University. You left Harvard University to go take care of your parents, and you dealt with this same exact issue, right? Access.
Yeah, you know, whenever I graduated from Harvard in 2008, that's when the big stock market just went kabloom, you know. And so overnight, everything changed. Job offers changed, outlook changed. And so I had to move back home like with my parents. And so my parents, we don't really come from much. We're a very proud family, and we take care of each other, and we pay our bills and stuff like that, but we just don't come from much. So there's nothing for me to fall back on. And so my parents, you know, live from check to check, as many parents out there do, as many people do. And so I couldn't be a burden on them. So I went down to the WIC office and applied for food stamps. And this is an important part of my story, just because there was a lot of, I was really upset with myself because I felt like I did everything that I was supposed to be doing in life, but not knowing that all these things would actually paint this amazing narrative of how I actually discovered health and wellness. So I'm down there, get my food stamps, and then, you know, I have to go to the grocery store, and I'm going over to Costco, and this is at around the same time where I know that I can't afford a personal trainer, that I know that I'm trying to get healthy and better. So I'm making better choices shopping at Walmart and shopping at Costco. And I'm learning how to stretch the dollar and be creative in those environments. And so that's why, to that person out there in that food desert, for that person out there who is food insecure, yes, your challenges are a lot more significant than most Americans. However, don't let somebody tell you that you have to go to Whole Foods just to eat healthy, because I lost my weight eating at Walmart and Costco. It wasn't until I finally got some income I began to branch out and taste some of the stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know what? This food over here, actually, this premium bison meat, it tastes pretty good, and I can tell a difference between something else. Now, from a health standpoint, I'm not going to tell somebody to go, you know, to go broke, you know, in the name of health. But it's just do what you can at your level.
Yeah. I love that you said that too, because I feel like a lot of people default back to like, oh, I don't have access, or I can't do it, or I don't have a Whole Foods, I don't have this, you know, this organic place near me. But the fact that you could stand up here and showing kind of what you've done with yourself in your life, and you did this with food stamps, and you went to the Walmart. That shows that it can be done, right? It's a matter of your, you know, willingness to kind of just push, right?
Absolutely. And it's also about knowledge. One thing that I did is that I was so indignant when I went to a personal trainer to go get help, and he was going to charge me some crazy fee for 4 weeks. And I was just like, yo, Kev, when is enough enough? When is enough enough? Meaning, you don't like the way you look, you don't like the way you feel, you can't afford a personal trainer, you went to an amazing high school, public high school, you went to college, and then you went to grad school. Why can't you just walk yourself down there to the bookstore and go and buy a book and figure out nutrition? Like, you have the tools to go ahead and do. So knowledge is a big thing too. So I always say that people also have to be at that place. And I'm not saying that you have to go to a bookstore, you need a college degree or this and that to go and do it. I'm saying you got to use what you have in order to make things work. So I knew if I had the capacity to go to this level in education, I can give a darn about myself to go to this capacity to learn how to eat better and to make better choices for myself. So that's what I did. And so people have to be at their proverbial rock bottom, I feel like, to know, like, all right, something has to change. I've got to go ahead and do it. So whether that's you going onto Google and you reading a blog, anything, when you are desperate enough, when you're hungry enough, you will find out a way.
Yeah.
And I was at that point.
You were clearly motivated, and I think that that's what people need. Sometimes people need that little kick, right, to kind of jumpstart you. Yeah. Right. Look, I've been there, man. Like, I ran track my whole life, and then after, you know, I same thing like you, like working out 3 hours a day. I had my daughter, and then 5 years ago, boom, exercise stopped, right? And then you stop eating healthy, and it's tough. So I'm trying to get back in the swing of things myself, man.
Yeah.
So, let me ask. So that was around the time where you had your transformation, right? Like, you had this transformation. And you kind of sat back and said, I'm going to do more with what I learned. And you started to branch out, and thus FitMenCook.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So when I was, remember, as FitMenCook was being launched, FitMenCook was my answer to getting out of where I was. I just didn't know that it was FitMenCook what it is today. FitMenCook was a side hustle for me to try to get free advice from the internet and from trainers out there to be like, hey, bro, that's cool, but don't eat that, eat this. That's what the idea was. And I realized there are more people out there just like us who were tired of eating the same thing, who were tired of having to eat chicken breast, broccoli, and brown rice just to get fit. And here I was just learning how to put things together, taking foods that I really, really love, Mexican food and soul food, and making it much more calorie conscious and sharing that stuff out. Yeah. And people like, I like this too. You know what? Let me try this recipe. That's what happened. And that's how FitMenCook grew.
Right. And then now, like, you have like a whole line of stuff. You want to talk about your line of stuff that's coming out as well? Seasonings and so on and so forth?
Yeah, we just launched some seasonings, and they're doing amazingly well. We were in the middle of finalizing our sauces, but then the pandemic hit, so we're slowing that part down. But one of the most exciting things is now, what is this, like almost 6-7 years later, doing well in this space, but also now finally saying, all right, I have a point of view about food. I have a point of view about products. And now it's time for me to put my own brand and my own face and my own name behind the things that I really care about. So that's been really,
that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
So I want to take a little pivot here for a bit and talk about good foods and bad foods, right? So like there is a war on carbs. Right? You have like legit, right? And like
there is.
Before we even go deep on that, right? I think that there's a lot of people that don't understand the difference between a good carb and a bad carb, right? And then let's address that, and then we'll start digging in paleo versus vegan and all this stuff. But like,
it's funny you said good carb and bad carb. So there are simple carbs and the complex carbohydrates. So when you're trying just to do a little bit better and to make some healthier choices, then I would go to the complex carbohydrates, and that's what people would call the good carbs. Now, I stay away from saying good carbs and bad carbs only because I've met some people who are like nutritionists, who are bodybuilders, who are fitness enthusiasts, and there are places in your diet strategically for simple carbs.
Got it.
So that doesn't necessarily make them bad. It just means you have to have a strategy around them. So a good carb in this sense would be that complex carbohydrate. And you want the complex carbohydrates like the brown rice and the grains and the oats and the sweet potato and the beans, legumes, things like that. Those are going to give you lasting energy throughout the day. What we tend to do in a lot of our diets, especially within the Black community, we can sometimes over rely on sugar and salt, and sometimes even processed foods. And those things are the ones, the foods that we have to really monitor and stay away from. Those are like some more of the simple carbs that you would see in some of the processed foods.
Yep. Yeah, that's so. Would you say that, like, I mean, and this is one I'm sure everyone could argue about, but like vegan versus
Yeah.
vegetarian versus like guys in paleo, and I'll be honest with you, I did paleo for like a year, and I cut a massive amount of. I was probably physically the best looking shape that I've been, but I didn't necessarily feel the best that I felt,
Mm.
in my life,
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, first off, you got to find out what works for you. I actually advise people, maybe not with the keto one, just because it's a little bit more extreme, and you got to make sure that you're medically okay to go and do that diet.
Yeah,
But I think it's a healthy thing to try out different styles of eating, so that you can kind of understand, like what you like and also like what you don't like. For
yeah,
instance, like with you, you realize that, hey, I'm in some great shape, but I'm maybe not feeling my best. I'm not as really,
yeah,
as like energetic. So that may mean like, all right, I maybe need to add like a few more calories to my diet.
yeah,
But
yeah,
oftentimes we can do these different diets, not so you can stay like for the lifetime and you can start, wearing t-shirts being like paleo for life. But it's for you to go back to your regular diet and say, you know what? When I did paleo, I liked this combination of foods and
yeah,
how I ate throughout the day. So I'm going to take this style and bring it back to my regular diet. And
yeah.
so
That's a good
that
point.
way, that would allow you to go on and off paleo, but there are some tenets of the paleo diet that that you really, really vibed with, and that's
Hmm.
okay.
Good. That's a good point you say that, because I do
Yeah,
think that like a lot of these diets are hard to stick. Like the aggressive ones are
yeah.
really hard to stick with for a significant amount of time. Like I tell you, like I was eating wings like every night. I was like, oh my God, wings and like sweet potato
For what,
fries,
keto?
killing it. But I was paleo. I
Oh,
was doing the
paleo.
paleo thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And there's something to that as well. There's an over reliance on animal products and food. Animal food
Yeah.
products. And so I know that the vegan, you gotta say, I won't say that. The vegan
Go.
diet.
We can go there. We can go there.
Okay. I was like, well, sometimes I feel like the hesitation with the vegan diet is people say, like think of vegans versus like, the actual diet. And
Yeah.
you got to separate the people who maybe like represent the diet versus the diet itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I will say is that I advise everybody to at least go out and try some vegan recipes. If not, try to go vegan for like a week or two,
Yeah.
and not vegan, plant-based.
Yeah.
Because I think that you'll learn a whole lot. The plant-based diet is probably one of the most unique diets in the world, because the way they have to just pair things together to simulate like other foods.
Yeah.
But also what I found when I went purely plant-based was that I felt better. My skin was clearing up. Now I missed some meat and things like that. And so here's what I took back from that experience.
Okay.
I didn't say, I got to go plant-based now. I said, all right, Kevin, clearly it's very evident you are not eating nearly enough plants and vegetables. So why don't you flip your diet? Why don't you make plants and veggies and legumes, things like that, the star of your dish? And if you want to add in meat, you can. But you don't have to, Kev, but you can.
Interesting.
We've been taught to say, we're going to have to, all right, what's going to be the main thing of the dish? Ribs. And then we will spend all day on them ribs. We'll spend all day on them ribs and then be like, well, I guess I can add a side. Let me get a roll. Let me get a roll with the ribs. That's it.
Some butter on it.
Yeah, let me just get a roll of it. Like that's the side. So, but what if we said, let's make the most amazing potato salad, this amazing, whatever salad, we want, or mashed sweet potatoes, and then say, all right, what type of protein do we want to maybe have it with this meal? So it's a different way to look at it. And I think that if we prioritize a lot more plants and vegetables in our diet, then you will see a significant decrease in the number of health issues impacting the Black community.
I'm really glad that you said that too, man. And there's also this notion of healthy foods don't taste good, right? I feel a lot of people feel that. I will say, and I'll put it on the record, my wife is watching now, like she's a vegan. She's been vegan for years, and she always like, you should try this, you should try it. And there's times I don't feel like I can make anything, and I can't cook for a damn anyways. And I try, and it's good.
I know.
People need to realize it is good. To your point about using all these different things to kind of simulate the tastes and the textures, it's amazing stuff.
Yeah, they are. It's so unique. It's really good. Healthy food can taste good. That's a huge myth out there. And what I'll say, especially the people who are watching, if you're Southern, you're black and brown, that good food and flavor, it runs in our veins, it runs in our blood. Like, we know how to do that. So you can take those same ideas and then like apply them to healthier food. I think the main thing that we've got to be focusing on are just two things here when it comes to eating healthy. We just need to focus on portion control. We have these plates that look like trough or chargers. We put them in front of us, and our mind will automatically go ahead and fill up the plate. We don't need that much food.
Yeah.
We don't. It'll surprise you. We do not need that much food. And secondly, we just need to educate ourselves on how we can prepare the foods that we really love in much more calorie conscious ways. We've got to get rid of, we can't eat this, we can't eat that. We can eat this, but we just can't eat it this way all the time. Mm-hmm. And if we do that,
So no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If we do that, then all of a sudden the diets that we've just been conditioned to hate, because healthy eating is so bad, all of a sudden we actually like our diet. Mm-hmm. For instance, I showed this was a long time ago, but I showed my parents and I showed some other people one of my favorite soul food meals, and I didn't really realize that it was based off of what my mom used to make for Soul Food Sunday. My favorite meal growing up every Soul Food Sunday was this pot roast. It was so good, candied yams, and some greens.
Okay, all right.
And some greens, right? Now, when I got healthier, for some reason, and I was always traveling, I would always come home and I would make myself flank steak, some mashed sweet potato, and some garlic spinach.
Okay.
I didn't really put it together until like years later that in my psyche, I was actually recreating the food that actually made me feel good.
Yeah.
But in a calorie conscious way. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. I was still enjoying those same foods. Mm. I didn't say I can't enjoy my little Soul Food Sunday. I could enjoy it, and I was enjoying it, but I was enjoying it in a very different way.
Mm. Interesting.
And in a much more calorie conscious way. Mm-hmm.
Can you let's land there in the calorie conscious way. Like, how do you? Yeah. Some people get confused and it's like, well, how do I count calories and what is that? Like, can you maybe give the audience here an understanding of like what's an easy way to kind of count and identify the calories or even the amount of calories you should be taking in per day?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of calorie counters online. So the first thing is that people need to go ahead and try to calculate their BMR, which is their basal metabolic rate.
Okay.
And what that basically means, that's the rate, that's the number of calories that you need right now to be able to stay where you are. Now, when you're trying to do something such as gain weight or to lose weight, then you have to manipulate those calories. And that calorie measure is based off of certain things. It's based off your height, your weight, and how active you are like throughout the day. So if perhaps if you're like an Amazon delivery person, your activity rate is going to be super high. So you may so that may require a lot more calories. But if you're sedentary at a job, typing on the computer like all day, then yours is going to be like a little bit lower, right?
Yeah.
So it's a way to manipulate those calories in order to determine what I need to do in order to be at my best self. And I think it sounds really scientific, but take it from me, y'all. I'm not that dude, and I figured it out. It is that easy. You can go online and put that in, and you can begin to just to like play around with that. Now, in terms of figuring out the calorie amount in foods, there are tons of sites on there, but the site that I've used like over all the years is MyFitnessPal. And so take it like this. What you're going to say is, all right, Kev, I want to make candied yams, let's say. Mm-hmm. So you're going to take your mom's recipe and you're going to, go to the website and you're going to put in, she said I have to use 5 of these potatoes. You type in the 5 potatoes, brings up all the calories for that. You add that to the meal. She also says that she uses 2 sticks of butter. You look up 2 sticks of butter and you put that in there. She also says she uses 1 cup of sugar. Put that cup of sugar in there, and then the cinnamon and everything else, and put all those ingredients, and all of a sudden, that's going to give you the total amount of calories for that meal for those ingredients, right?
Yep.
Now, when I say preparing it in much more calorie-conscious ways, this is what I mean. Take that same recipe, and I say, "Oh, Mama, we can't do two cups, two whole sticks of butter. We can't do that. We can't do all the sugar. Can't do all these things. All right, so I'm going to take sweet potatoes over here. Then, you know what? I'm going to maybe add in 2 tablespoons of like olive oil. I'm going to make it fluffier, not by adding in butter, but maybe adding in some like barbecue sauce. And I'm going to whip everything together. I'm going to add in some like cinnamon and maybe just a third or a quarter of the amount of sugar. And all of a sudden, the calories that were right here for the recipe that I really liked are now right here.
Got it.
So now we're preparing foods that we really love in much more calorie conscious ways. And then over time, what you can always do is you can come back to the same recipe and keep refining it. You know what? I didn't like the barbecue sauce. I'm going to take the barbecue sauce, and this goes this with the calories, you know? And you're just going to keep on and keep on and keep on. And that's what you do to your diet. Wow. That's what I did. You just take the foods that you really like and learn how to make them healthier.
That's incredible, man. That's a great way to look at things and really kind of continue going after it and changing a few things here and there until you get it to your liking. That's great. Speaking of that, because you mentioned just 2 seconds ago about substituting barbecue sauce and things of that nature. Yeah. What things can people of color, like we naturally gravitate to things that are saltier, right? Yeah. Things that sometimes are sugar, have more sugar and so on and so forth. Fried foods, right? So what are good substitutes? If you could say like, instead of frying, do this, or instead of the sugar, do this, or instead, like, what are good substitutes?
Yeah, so instead of frying, first off, get yourself an air fryer. I think it's one of the best things. I was pretty skeptical about it when it came out years ago, but I live and die by my air fryer. Really? So yeah, it makes things super crispy, and you have to use I'd say 10% of the amount of oil that you would normally use in a recipe, because it's just the hot air that's making the outside of whatever you're cooking that much, crispier, because it's just, going really fast. Secondly, you can also learn to faux fry. So instead of, adding a whole bunch of flour to the fat, you can actually use some panko breadcrumbs. You can use some potato chips, some baked chips. There are other things out there. You can even use some chickpea crumbs that they have now. They're really hard. And so when you air fry something, it comes out with the same amount of texture and crunch. So here's the thing too, before I continue, what I always tell people, especially people of color, because I'm going to hear it from y'all and y'all going to write me, it don't taste the same. It's not supposed to taste the same. It's never going to taste the same as your grandmama's recipe, and that's it. It's not going to taste like that. But it's not supposed to. Yeah. It's supposed to remind you of that essence of food that you really like, so that you can enjoy those other foods, grandma's recipe, at some other time whenever you plan for it, but not every single day. And the best thing about this food that you are flipping is that you are making it, you are putting in what you like. So it's food that you actually want to eat on like an everyday basis, and it's better for you, it's more nutritious for you. But it's never going to taste the same way as your mama and your auntie's recipe. It's not supposed to.
No, but that's good that you said that. Yeah, I can get that, because even when, it's kind of, this is learned behavior, right? It's like you gradually.
I left the oven on, and it's beeping. 1 second, y'all.
All right, look, while he's running to save his food, right now, down in the bottom, you'll see the comments tab, right? The comments thing, directly to the right of that, you're going to see the squared, the little square with the question mark on it. Everyone go in there right now. You can actually go there, tap on that, and you can ask questions. I will actually get them queued up on my side in a couple minutes. When I'm done wrapping up my questions here, we can then have audiences actually join in on the conversation. Cool.
Sorry about that.
What can I ask? Can I ask, what were you cooking? Baking?
Yeah, I'm seasoning a cast iron skillet right now.
Wait, seasoning a cast iron skillet. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm seasoning one right now. I've got to use for another video coming up.
Got it. So here's another question then, man. And I'm gonna just ask a couple more, then we're gonna just go right to the folks who want to ask questions here. I have gotten in this bad habit since I've been home, right? The past month, I'd say. I'm now doing my exercises and my working out and my lifting at night. So 9:30 I'm lifting. I'm done by 10:30, 11 running or doing the Peloton. I go shower, I get in bed, and then 12 o'clock I say, damn, I'm hungry. I go downstairs, and then I end up getting cereal, man. And I'm not a cereal dude. So what midnight cravings, what's a good go-to for folks? Instead of grabbing that sugar thing, that cereal or whatever. And I get oats. That's what I get my cereal.
Can I show you?
Go, please.
Something?
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second, y'all. Let me show you.
Okay. All right. Fully interactive session here. So again, folks, I see the questions filling up. Go ahead down there. bottom to the right of your comments thing, tap on that tab, and I'll be able to ask some questions. All right.
Okay, so the first thing is back in the day when I first started to eat healthier, one of my go-to snacks for that 3 a.m. craving was boiled eggs. And I would boil like an entire carton of them, have them ready. So at 3 a.m., if I had the munchies, I would get up and I put some hot sauce on it and eat it. The hot sauce would curb the cravings and would also curb my appetite. And then I didn't feel bad about eating an entire egg just because it's just lean protein with a little bit of fat.
Wait,
let's
rewind here. Does the hot sauce do something?
The hot sauce has like capsicum, forget what it's called. I think it's maybe capsicum, but it really helps to curb your appetite and curb your cravings. Yeah, the hot sauce will. And it was salty too, so at 3 a.m. I'm like, ooh, it's a little bit saltiness. And then you eat that and satisfied, and it's just enough to kind of fake your body because the yolk is so dense. It's enough to fake your body into you're eating something that's really plentiful. But you're actually eating something that's pretty lean.
That's amazing. And you said, were you eating the whole egg or just part of it, or?
Well, not the shell, but just the whole egg.
Oh yeah, the egg. Yeah. Okay.
And then the other thing, this is what I've been enjoying right now, especially during this time, is this right here. Every week, y'all, start of every week, this has been my saving grace because we are in a really stressful time right now. And I know that sometimes if you're up late and you're thinking about work or you're thinking about what's going to happen with the kids and school or anything else like that, you are probably going to get into a little bit of anxiety eating, into some mindless eating. And I get it. It's something that you try to control for, but we're all human. And one of my things, because I think about stuff a lot too, it's just this fruit salad. So I will, and just like last night, I went to bed early and could not go back to sleep around 3 a.m. So I was on my couch watching some TV, and I was so hungry, and I was like, don't you go and reach for them chips. I went and got a little half a bowl of this fruit, and I ate it. And I know people are going to say, oh, but aren't you going to get fat? I've never met one obese person who got obesity because they ate some fruit. It's satisfying. It's really sweet and delicious. So make yourself a big fruit salad and have that. So whenever you're feeling, whenever you're getting kind of anxious and walking around the house being like, I got to eat something, go and get some fruit and go sit down.
Interesting. That's amazing, man. That's a good one, man. And that's I always have fruit in the refrigerator, so now you're gonna just switch things up for me.
Yeah.
I got a question coming in here from I'm gonna just murder these names, so I'm sorry. John Greer. What would you suggest for someone who is deathly allergic to dairy and gluten intolerant?
Oh God. Well, definitely not dairy. So my ex girlfriend, she had an aversion to dairy as well, and I thought it was a fake one until I was like,
it was a fake one.
This stuff with that internet stuff, and then I made like I think it was a pasta dish, and then and the next day her face was like, whoa. I was like, oh, maybe you weren't right. There was something to that. So that led me down this rabbit hole to exploring a lot more dairy alternatives. So of course I do the plant-based milk, but coconut milk and coconut cream have been one of my go-tos for that, and also avocado. And I say those because they can actually provide for a good creamy base for a lot of recipes, a lot of cream sauce recipes. Like I've made like an avocado Alfredo pasta, which is on the website, and then coconut cream, you can mask it with a lot of other stuff and herbs, so that way that flavor is not as is not as powerful or whatnot. But it's gonna remind you, kind of like what vegans do, of like that cheesy Alfredo flavor and other things like that. If you're gluten intolerant, I would highly suggest looking at a little bit of the paleo diet. That's one big plus of that, because they stay away from things like the pasta, and I think even rice too. And you look at vegetables as those things, and so you will learn a lot more about like even grating sweet potato, grating cauliflower for rice, using that also as like pasta. And so diets like paleo, they are like really rooted in like the gluten-free stuff, just because it's not a part of their precepts or whatever it's called. So yeah, that's what I would suggest for you.
Interesting. And what I found with, in terms of the paleo, I just found and maybe it was just me. I had a hard time really finding a lot of different foods to eat. And I felt as though I was like forcing myself on chicken like every single night to kind of get over. And then of
Yeah.
course like
How many
paleo
paleo
chocolate chip
cookbooks
cookies.
did you buy?
Look, man, I was just looking whatever I found online. I was just like,
Ah,
but
how
here's the
many
thing too.
paleo food bloggers did you follow?
Yeah,
Ah,
true. This is
aha,
true. This is true. But
aha,
so,
aha.
so
Yeah.
here's the thing
So,
too. I think it's tough though. I think the other thing, so part of that, so I have a 2 hour commute into Manhattan, right?
right.
And each way. So part of that is like I'm leaving. When I'm working, usually I work out at like 5 a.m. in the morning. I'm on the train. I'm into work, and then I'm back home by like 7:30, eating a late dinner, and then it's like you're rushing, right? So part of, it's tough for people I can understand who are constantly on the go to try to
Yeah.
eat healthy, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that a lot of us have been, have been there before, and that's why I'm always preaching like meal prep. So the best thing about meal prep is not, I'm not talking about you gotta fill up your dining room table with meals as far as the eye can see. I'm talking about meal prepping, snacks, anything, having healthier options at your fingertips, so that way you won't go ahead and do something that you're going to regret later on,
Yeah.
or move farther away from your wellness goals. So being prepared is going to be the best combatant for that. And I understand that you're saying, oh, but I don't have time. But the reality is, which one will you make time for? Will you make time to go ahead and be depressed and upset because you're not close to where you want to be? Or will you make time to go ahead and set aside an hour each week, 2 hours, if you can swing it, each week, to just make sure that you have healthier options? And that's going to be the absolute best way. There's no easy way around that.
Yeah.
I travel with some, with like some snacks with me whenever I do stuff like this, especially whenever I was going to New York almost on a weekly basis. I would make sure that my backpack was full of things like unsalted and some roasted nuts, some beef jerky, and just some plain dried fruit. And that's because sometimes I wouldn't know, but depending on like what I'm doing, when I could actually sit down like for a meal. So even I was thinking as I'm leaving Dallas, Texas, what type of prep can I have for myself so that I can be prepared in the event that I can't eat? So
great point.
You're not going to have time for anything. You just have to make that time.
Yeah. I mean, it's at the end of the day, a lot of this conversation is about making the commitment, right? It's like,
Yeah.
It might be difficult, but you have to make the commitment. If you make the commitment, you can get healthier.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if you can find yourself someone like a rich person who can walk around like all day and force feed you and hit you with a belt and be like, go and eat, do something like that, that's great. I can't afford that. So I'm all I have.
Well, here's another one coming from Trixie Stratosphere. Can you address, I like this question, can you address what is best diet for diabetics and the elderly? And I'm really interested in hearing the elderly side, because again, like a lot of the people you see that are impacted right now are the elderly right now. So
right. Yeah. So the diabetics question is I feel like that's a little bit of an easier question. I would just go with like a lower carb type of diet. A lot of people who are diabetic have been experimenting with the ketogenic diet. If you want to, then you first go and see your doctor, because some diabetics cannot process fats the same. So that would not be the best diet to go ahead and do. But a lower carb diet, like the paleo diet, is almost like fundamentally, just because of the nature of it, it's lower in carbs oftentimes.
Yeah.
So for the elderly, I'm going to use the example of my parents.
Okay.
And so as a base premise, I'll say elderly should be prioritizing plants and vegetables, protein.
Okay.
When I got my dad to go plant-based about a year and a half ago. Now he is more like vegetarian. But I got him to go plant-based because I needed to help him address a lot of the health issues. And I wouldn't recommend that for everybody, but I just knew with his symptoms and his ailments and arthritis and the inflammation inside of his body, I said, okay, this is caused, I know for a fact, by these animal products that you're eating and all this meat.
Interesting.
If you cut that out, it's going to feel better. So when he did that, his entire physique and his disposition changed. Even his personality
Wow.
has changed. And he was just happy again. He wasn't as, like in pain. So for people who are getting much more advanced in age, what I would say to you is that prioritize lean protein, but more importantly, prioritize a lot of plant-based foods, because you're going to need a variety of vitamins and minerals to keep you going. This is like, I'm feeling it right now. And I went back to the store to go get some more supplements and some vitamins. I need vitamin E for this and vitamin B for that. I'm like, Kevin, you could just continue to also and do a little bit more with eating some fresh fruits and some vegetables on a daily basis, and make sure that you have that with every single meal.
Yeah, that's great, man. Hey, we're gonna close out now, and I feel like I could just listen to you talk for another hour or two, because the information you're giving here is pretty wow. But I guess I want to ask one last question. Is there anything you'd like to leave with the viewers here in terms of like better ways to get healthy, things they should focus on, like how to actually take that next step? Because I think that for a lot of people, I'd say like 90+% of people, it's that challenge of taking that first step.
Yeah, taking that first step is really hard. It's the hardest thing that you're going to do, but it's also going to be the most rewarding and the most comforting thing that you're going to do. There's this saying that, somebody says like, I really hated that workout, said like no one ever, because it's just getting to the workout that's actually the hard part. So just got to remind yourself of where you're going to be going. One thing that I've done that I still do to this day is I put up, I have to remind myself of my goals, not only in health and wellness, but also in life. And sometimes it takes a little bit extra. So in my closet, I have this affirmation wall. And I put up these positive things, that I want to say about myself and my family and over my business. And when I need that reminder, I will go in there and I will say those things out loud. When I was doing stuff, really heavy in fitness, I would put up what my goal was on the fridge. So that way, when I open up the fridge, I'm making sure that every time I'm reaching for food, I'm inching closer to my wellness goals, because I'm reminding myself of that. So you've got to remind yourself, first off, that it's worth it for you. It's worth it to take that first step, no matter how hard it is. And to the person out there who is really, really struggling, who is down and out, and nobody really knows it, and you feel like you're screaming to the top of your lungs, but nobody hears you. I hear you, because I've been you. And I have been the guy who has been so depressed, getting up at 5 a.m. before work, trying to will myself out of bed to go there. I will even admit, once I got there, having a breakdown in the bathroom, wiping tears from my eyes, and going and taking my sweaty self out there to the gym and begin to work out. Because that's what it takes sometimes. Sometimes you've got to go ahead and bully yourself to get up out of where you are to go ahead and make a difference. But if you want it, it's there. Remember this. This is something that a trainer told me, and I will never forget this. He said, Kevin, he was trying to motivate me. And he said, Kevin, I don't want to hear you complaining about, what we're doing. Because if you do the stuff, it's got to work. And I got upset because I know fitness. My body's different from this person. You can't tell me. If you do what you're supposed to be doing, it's got to work. He's not saying it's going to fall off you at the rate of this person and that person. He's saying if you commit to eating healthy and exercising, the stuff has got to work. Yes, there will be challenges. Yes, you may hit a plateau. But if you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, it will work. And you have to remind yourself that will happen with you whenever you get up and take that first step. But all you got to do is do it first.
I feel like you're talking at me, man. I feel like it's coming this way. It's good. No, this is great, man. This is amazing, man. I'm just going to ask one more thing. You have a ton of recipes. Do you want to right now say where people can go to actually see a lot of those recipes?
Yeah, they can go to FitMenCook.com. If you're not a fan of the old-fashioned website, you can download our apps on the App Store and also Google Play. FitMenCook, it's the same thing. And also, if you're really into meal prep and want to experiment with that, we have another app that's called Meal Prep Pro, and that is on the App Store as well. There's a book called FitMenCook. It's all about meal prep. You can get that from Amazon. Yeah, and then if you want to check out our spices, you can also get that. It's called The Fit Cook, but they're also on Amazon. So once you type in FitMenCook, everything will come up.
Man, it's gonna be like the Black Martha Stewart, man. You're gonna have sheets coming out, comforters, window blinds, it's fit men blinds.
Hey, man,
I
from
love
your
it,
lips
man.
to God's ears.
Hey, man, definitely. Well, look, man, I appreciate you. We appreciate you, man, and we all be watching. And for everyone out there, please like make that first step to having a healthier lifestyle.
Thank
Thanks,
you, sir.
man. I
Thank you,
appreciate it,
bro.
Kevin.